We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the UFC 309 breakdown, betting odds, and predictions. This is going to be the first time that I do something like this live. Obviously, I've done this a bunch of times before pre-recorded, but I thought I would switch it up and start it live. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are for UFC 309 in the chat. I'm going to be breaking down the different fights on the main card. As always, please make sure to like the video, comment, share, and subscribe far and wide. Very happy to say that this video, as you can see, is powered by IT Guru Solutions, the fastest internet provider in the whole of Namibia. Before I start, you guys can see it in the chat here. I've pinned it. Please go ahead and have a look at the latest offering. We put a lot of effort into that production. It's called Ntando Zondi, the Zulu Warrior. It's an MMA type movie. I'm going to show you guys a quick snippet of this. If this doesn't get you hooked to watch, I don't know what will. So let's play a quick 1-minute snippet and let me know if you guys have watched it, if you're going to watch it, and let me know what you guys think in the comments.
Not, but it feels good.
That front view is my shots. Okay, if that doesn't get you hooked to watch, I don't know what will. Anyway, on to UFC 309. So, of course, everybody knows this weekend. If you don't know, have you been living under a rock? This weekend is UFC 309. John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Obviously, a lot of people wanted to see John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. As I mentioned in the video today, he's talking about possibly fighting Alex Pereira, but he has to get through Stipe Miocic first. I'm going to go through the main card, as always, but just to let you guys know, in case you didn't know, there are a couple of bangers. I'm liking the Mickey Gall and Brahimaj fight. That one should be quite a banger. And I'm happy to see Tybura is back, Onana is back, and Jim Miller's always a good one, underdog again, which has happened so many times in his career. Chris Weidman, I'm happy, not a hater, happy to see that he's been bumped off the main card because there are such other good fights on this card. But we start off with the first bout, which is Mauricio Raffi and James Lantop. It's a lightweight bout. Let me just zoom out a little bit for you guys. Okay, so we've got Mauricio Raffi, James Lantop. Mauricio Raffi 10-1-0. James Lantop 14-4-0. Brazil versus Peru, height 5'11" versus 6 foot 167.5, 173, but they're fighting at lightweight. 75-inch reach advantage versus 73, and the leg advantage, leg reach is 41 to 39.5. Now, minus 750 to 525 for Raffi. That is a huge advantage in his favor. Let's just go look at their past fights. So Mauricio Raffi, 10-1-0, as we mentioned. I believe all of his wins have come by knockout. They have 100%. He's 1-0 in the UFC after his debut on the Contender Series, and he's just been murking people in his entire career. His only loss, actually, strange enough, also came by knockout. Now, if we contrast that to James Lantop, aka Goku, have a look at his record. He's lost his first 2 fights in the UFC, even though the last fight was quite close at the split decision. After also winning on Dana White's Contender Series. Before that, he fought in FFC, UWC, had varying success, but was able to make it on the Contender Series, and then unfortunately he's coming off a 2-fight losing streak, and he's taking this fight on super short notice. So my breakdown, it's obvious that the UFC wants to continue building Mauricio Raffi. He's a very exciting striker. He's quite a dynamic striker. That's what the fans want to see, particularly casual fans. They want to see striking battles. They want to see entertaining striking. And that's what they are setting this up for. Again, if you look at these odds, minus 750, plus 525, I mean, worth a punt, I guess, if you wanted to take a punt at this, but should be an easy victory for Raffi, honestly. I don't really see much for Lantop, particularly since he's taking this on short notice. His losses haven't come by finish. He's actually never been finished. So it's just been submissions and decisions, and again submission and decision. Yeah, so he's never been finished by knockout or TKO. But honestly, I don't see any other way of this fight ending besides a Mauricio Raffi TKO. I think TKO round 2, I'm going to go with Raffi for the win. And if you want to bet, take a punt on Lantop, but maybe not. So that's the first fight. The second fight, we've got Vivian Araujo versus Karine Silva. Vivian Araujo ranked number 9 in the women's flyweight division. Karine Silva ranked number 11 in the women's flyweight division. Odds, Karine Silva minus 278 favorite. Araujo plus 225. They're both Brazilian. Let's just go have a look at some of their stats. So Araujo 12-6-0. Karine Silva 18-4-0. 5'4" versus 5'5", 126 pounds, 125 pounds, 125 and a half actually. Reach advantage, we've got to Araujo, and the leg advantage to Silva. And as I say, the odds are plus 225 for Araujo, minus 278 for Silva. Now, if we go to their respective topology pages, if we just go have a look at Araujo, she's ranked number 11 in the world, but number 9 in the UFC. And again, if you look at the last couple of fights that she's had, I mean, she's 1-3 in her last 4, and actually 2-4 in her last 6. So she's really been having a tough time lately. These have been tough fights though. I mean, Alexa Grasso, Amanda Ribas, Natalia Silva, those are pretty tough fights. She had a good decision victory against Jennifer Maia. I think I actually picked Jennifer Maia for that fight. If I remember correctly, it was about a year ago, just over a year ago actually. Had the cancelled bout in between, and now she's fighting Karine Silva. If we go to Karine Silva's record over here, she's 4-0 in the UFC. All 4 of her wins have come by submission. Actually, no. She has had a decision victory as well. I stand corrected. She's like I said, 4-0 in the UFC. She won her fight on the Contender Series. She actually also won that by submission. She's a great Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. She's faster for me. She's got more tools. She's got more dangerous tools, particularly, especially when it goes to the ground. And I can't actually see Araujo being able to stop this. Has Araujo been submitted before? No, she hasn't been submitted before. I'm going to go for Silva to submit Araujo within 2 rounds. So I'm going to say in the middle of the second round. I think she gets it done. She's on too much of a roll. She is too good on the ground for Araujo, and I think Silva gets this one done in round 2. Do I want to call the submission? Rear naked choke, I think. Mounts her, ground and pounds, and gets the sub. Now, the next fight, there's my tab over there. We've got a very interesting fight. Now, I know the odds, again, they'll forever be stacked in Bo Nickal's favor. I mean, he's a minus 1,000 favorite to Paul Craig's plus 650 as an underdog. I get it, and we'll look at a bit of why I think that's happening. But this is an excellent punt, I feel. If you bet on Paul Craig to win and take Bo Nickal's O, which he's done before, by the way, to some prominent fighters, you can make a lot of money. I think this, you can take a punt on Landtop, maybe. This is a little bit more than a punt. This is a whole lot more solid, particularly because Bo Nickal likes to be on top and Paul Craig is extremely dangerous from the bottom. And it's that age-old wrestler versus jiu-jitsu matchup, and Paul Craig is super dangerous, but we'll get to that in a second in a bit of a more thorough breakdown. So Paul Craig and Bo Nickal will fight each other this weekend. It's the middle of the main card. Bo Nickal 6-0-0, Paul Craig 17-8-1. USA versus Canada 6-1 versus 6-3, 198, 198.6. Crazy. Well, not too crazy for middleweight, really. 76 inches even, 42 versus 43. Again, as I mentioned, minus 1,000 favorite is Bo Nickal and plus 650 Paul Craig. Now, if we go to their respective topology pages, I've got it up here. Bo Nickal in his wrestling singlet. I still can't believe they put him on his wrestling singlet and topology. But anyway, 28 years old, 6-0-0. Middleweight, of course. 6 wins, 3 in the UFC, 2 on the Contender Series. I mean, super new in his career. Started fighting in 2022, but it's been on a fairly steady rise. They've obviously strapped a rocket to his back, putting him on the main card of UFC 290, which I still think is ridiculous. But anyway, to this day, he outlined his plan earlier today. I broke it down in the news for the day. If you guys want to go have a look at that, it is on my YouTube channel. It is the latest video, pretty much. Please go have a look at that. But essentially, he says that he's a couple of wins away, 1 or 2 wins away from fighting a ranked opponent, then the top 5, and then for the title, which could be. But I think Paul Craig is a definite gatekeeper for him. If we have a look at Paul Craig, 17-8-1. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, I believe. I mean, he's 9-8-1 in the UFC. Most of his losses, 5 of them have come by TKO. 25%, 2 of them have come by sub and 1 by decision. Now, he just lost to Charles Barello, top contender. Brendan or Karen Allen, whatever you want to call him, top contender. Andre Muniz, decent, beat him. Johnny Walker, he lost to him, was a top contender at one stage. Volkan Oezdemir also was a top contender. I want to get to Jamal Hill. Now, Jamal Hill, as you can see here, was 8-0 when he fought him. If you go back and remember UFC 263, he got him in a triangle and broke his arm, taking his O in the process. It's funny because they partied afterwards. Jamal Hill with his broken arm partying with Paul Craig. But that's the first fight. I mean, Jamal Hill was on a steady rise, wasn't on a good path after that as well. But Paul Craig took his O from the bottom, triangle / armbar. Remember Muhammad Ankalaev? So if we go back to his record, I'm going to go way down here. And again, just by the way, lost to Khalil Roundtree, who just had a stellar performance against, and these are all at light heavyweight. I know he dropped down to middleweight, but had a stellar performance against Alex Pereira. Muhammad Ankalaev. You remember, he took his O as well. He beat him from the bottom via submission. A lot of people are claiming that Paul Craig can do the same here. Now, again, I don't know. I tend to think that Bo Nickel will probably be able to take him down. If he decides to go to the ground with him, stay on top and not get submitted. I mean, Bo Nickel is decent enough at jiu-jitsu for that to happen. Plus, there's punches involved. So, you can be a great jiu-jitsu practitioner, but once you get punched in the face, your belt level goes down. Will Bo Nickel stand with Paul Craig? Is that the smartest thing to do? I mean, technically, he should stand with Paul Craig. Bo Nickel's got some bombs in his hands. I mean, he has some real bombs in his hands. If you remember the Val Woodburn fight, dropped him solid, quick, and put him away. It is his only finish in the UFC by punches. So, sorry, I'm not showing you the screen. It is his only finish by punches in the UFC. He had his debut here at Icon. Don't know if we should count that. I mean, counts his record, obviously, but, as anything to talk about. The likely outcome here is probably either Paul Craig submits Bo Nickel. I mean, bet on that. Bet on Paul Craig to beat Bo Nickel. You may as well. Just don't do it as part of a parlay, because if that doesn't happen, it's all going to come crumbling down for you. But why not? Go for him to win by a triangle if you want to be specific. But in all likelihood, I think Bo Nickel, little wrestling singlet, ends up taking him down and just grinding out possibly a boring win. I don't think it's a good idea for Bo Nickel to want to go boring, but rather win the fight, even in a boring fashion, and be spectacular against somebody else. But I think Bo Nickel probably wins this one by decision. But if you want to go for a punt, honestly, Paul Craig at, what was he? Paul Craig at plus 650. That's worth the risk if you're a betting person. So my final prediction is Bo Nickel to win by decision. Let me know in the comments what do you guys think is going to be the likely outcome. Who do you guys think is going to win this one? Bo Nickel or Paul Craig? Let's hear it. Next fight is Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. Now, of course, if you guys remember, Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler fought each other previously in 2 years ago, I believe. Or was it 2 or 3 years ago, I believe? If you go to, let's just actually go have a look. So before we get to that, let's just go through the stats. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. So Charles Oliveira, number 2. Michael Chandler ranked number 7. Crazy, because he hasn't fought for 2 years and so much has happened. But I digress. Oliveira, a minus 270 favorite. And Michael Chandler, plus 220. Brazil versus America. On to the stats, 34, 10, 0 with 1 no contest for Dubronx, 23 and 8 for Michael Chandler, both of them coming off a loss. Brazilian versus United States, 5'10 Oliveira, 5'8 Michael Chandler, 74-inch reach for Oliveira, 71.5-inch reach for Chandler, 41-inch leg reach versus 37.5. Excuse me. Okay, so Charles Oliveira, of course, you guys remember Charles Oliveira had that split decision loss to Arman Sarukian. I looked at the scorecards again. Mike Bell had Oliveira winning, and Adelaide Bird and Ron McCarthy had Sarukian winning. I had Arman winning that fight, honestly. I didn't see Charles Oliveira do enough. I think he was on the bottom too much. So I do believe that, Arman Sarukian won that fight. Again, I'm going to call it. Let me put this. I'm going to call it again. Arman Sarukian is going to be the one to dethrone Islam Makhachev. Bold claim. I don't care. I say that every time. Come at me if you want, but Arman Sarukian is the one to dethrone Islam Makhachev. Anyway, so he lost that fight. Before that, he had, there was a cancelled bout before that against Islam again. Completely dominated Benil. I feel so sorry for Benil. Lost to Islam in quite a dominant fashion. We were all rooting for him to win that one. But before that, had a huge winning streak. 12 fights, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11 fight winning streak, actually. Beating a who's who. I mean, he just went on a killer run. Clay Guida. Okay, Christos Giagos, Jim Miller, David Tamer, Nick Lentz, Jared Gordon, Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler, which we'll get to in a second, Dustin Poirier, and Justin Gaethje before losing to Islam, looking amazing against Benil, and then losing to Arman. If we go to Michael Chandler, fresh face, Michael Chandler is there, dude. Anyway, 23-8. His record in Bellator, 18-5 before coming to UFC, 2-3. Not great, but he has only had really difficult fights, high-profile fights. Fought for, a title when I think within 2 fights, if I'm not mistaken, after 2 fights. If I remember, it was like one of the quickest. I stand corrected. Let me know in the comments. But essentially, came in, beat Dan Hooker, amazing performance. Fought Charles Oliveira. Now, if you guys recall, in the first fight against Charles Oliveira, actually, I've got the Tony Ferguson. Tony really needs a win, man. I think all of us should just start doing MMA. We should all do MMA, enter the UFC, and fight Tony Ferguson and just let him win because he really needs it. Anyway, sidetrack. So head kick, front kick to the face, actually, in round 2. That was one of his more impressive performances. But he faced Charles Oliveira and looked really good in round 1. Like really, really good. Dropped Oliveira, was dominating, looked amazing. But then it kind of, like always, woke Charles Oliveira up. He seems to need to take a bunch of punches before he wakes up, and eventually came in, got the left hook, I believe it was, hit him with punches, and ground and pound win in the end for Charles Oliveira. He since went on to lose a unanimous decision, but he got utterly messed up in that fight against Justin Gaethje, and then got beaten by Dustin Poirier in round 3. Also got messed up a little bit with the win with Tony Ferguson. But I mean, look, again, fight of the night, performance of the night, fight of the night, performance of the night. He's an exciting fighter. My only problem, though, with old Michael Chandler, which, by the way, the last time he fought was almost to the day 2 years ago. He waited forever and ever for Conor McGregor. The fight never materialized. And, I mean, it is what it is. But I do see this fight playing out in a very similar fashion, and I just can't see Chandler putting Oliveira away. I can't see Chandler dominating Oliveira for a long period of time and staying in control. I think, Chandler's great in round 1, but, okay-ish in round 2, fairly decent, in the beginning of round 2, but it's just Oliveira's too tough, I feel, But if I'm wrong, Oliveira, I could be wrong because Oliveira's meter, his seems to actually work in reverse. So I always talk about that meter with people when they take too many shots or get knocked out too many times. They've got that resistance meter to shots and it slowly starts to fade. Oliveira seems to have gone in reverse. So maybe Oliveira is just growing into his meter, but and that's why he can't be knocked out. And I think, of course, I don't say can't be knocked out, but in this fight, I don't know if he can be put away. So I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira to win this fight in a very similar fashion, probably by TKO in round 2 again. I think that's a pretty safe call. Charles Oliveira to repeat something similar to what he did here and hand Michael Chandler another loss. For Charles Oliveira, it's a very risky fight. He doesn't need to take this fight. I mean, I'm sure they offered him a lot of money, but Charles Oliveira could have waited for a title shot. But good on him for taking this fight and not cowering and not hiding away and waiting for his title shot. Now, the main event. And I know, again, I'm going to say this again. I know everybody wants to see John Jones fight Tom Aspinall. But Tom Aspinall is not in the picture, unfortunately. Say what you will. For legacy long term, barring Tom Aspinall becoming the greatest heavyweight of all time, right now, as it stands, consensus greatest heavyweight in the world, Stipe Miocic. In history. Actually, not in the world, in history. Okay, consensus. Him or Cain Velasquez, but Cain had the fall off, so Stipe. Okay? say what you will, this fight is amazing for John Jones' legacy. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, he's a minus 700 plus 500 favorite. Again, if you want to take a punt, why the hell not? You know, if you guys want to take 10, 50, whatever you guys want to bet, whatever's not a punt amount of money, I would say Paul Craig, Stipe Miocic. Honestly, why not? What have you got to lose besides the punt money that you're putting in? Anyway, this is a legacy fight for John Jones, 100%. If he beats the consensus greatest heavyweight of all time, he's up there. It's good for his legacy. Already the greatest of all time. In my opinion, already the greatest light heavyweight of all time. No debate there. Let's go have a look at the stats. So, John Jones, 27-1-0. We know his only loss came to Matt Hamill. It's not really a loss. Stipe Miocic, 24-0. United States versus United States. 6'4" versus 6'5". 248 pounds versus 238. 84.5-inch reach is still crazy versus 80. 45-inch leg reach versus 39. Barring height, John Jones is the bigger man, which is crazy. Weight-wise as well, if we go look at John Jones, I mean, we don't really, I mean, he's flawless besides the Matt Hamill, which I still feel should be reversed because now 12-6 elbows are legal. And again, he was beating the shit out of Matt Hamill that time. So anyway, be that as it may, I mean, what was that? That was so crazy to think John Jones, that was 2009. Here we are 15 years later. He made his debut in 2008, almost 16 years ago. 16 years ago against Andre Guzmão. And then had that crazy performance against Stephan Bonner. I'm just reminiscing a little bit because this might be the last time we see John Jones fight. And I think, you know, instead of people talking about him ducking and calling him a coward and whatever, they should just appreciate him one more time. Anyway, if you recall, of course you recall, he had a super quick, brief victory in his heavyweight debut against Cyril Gane, submitting him in very quick fashion. 2 minutes and 4 seconds. It felt a lot quicker. So that was his UFC heavyweight debut. It's about a year and a half ago. So, very long time. Toys Peck in between. Stipe Miocic, 24-0. Obviously coming off the loss to Francis Ngannou, devastating loss. Like I don't know if Stipe has been the same. I mean, Stipe's speech seems to have slurred a little bit in the latest interviews and embeddeds and stuff. He is also 42 years old. Before that, he had the loss to Daniel Cormier. Sandwiched in between those losses are his 2 wins against DC. And yeah, his defense there, which before he defended the belt 3 times, got his 4 defenses. Before that, man, went on an absolute tear. Mark Hunt, Andre Arlovski, Fabricio Verdum, Alistair Overeem, Junior Dos Santos, Francis Ngannou. But that was up till about 6 years ago. He was already getting up there in age. And this, I still can't get this out of my mind. This knockout this is the last memory for him, for everybody. And they had a chance at having this fight last year, pretty much again to a year ago. But he hasn't fought in 3.5 years. I didn't realize it's that long. I thought it was 2.5. It's been 3.5 years since Stipe Miocic has fought. Dude, I think this is going to be a long night for Stipe, honestly. At the best of times, the best Stipe maybe has a chance against John Jones, especially at heavyweight. Even though John Jones has been away for so long, I can't see this fight going any other way but John Jones winning by however he wants, honestly. I think safe money, smart money, it's on John Jones. And John Jones is going to beat him by TKO. I think it should be fairly quick, but I think round 2, it's going to be devastating. Stipe Miocic retires. John Jones... Does he call out Alex Pereira? That's the question. What do you guys think? Is he going to call him out? Or is he going to call out Tom Aspinall, never fight him? Is he going to retire? I said earlier today he's in a pound position. I mean, my dream still would be for him to somehow become a free agent and go fight Francis Ngannou in Saudi. But if he stays in the UFC and fights, I think Tom Aspinall's out the question. Let's just be honest. I mean, he would have called for that fight already. They would have unified the belts a long time ago. So I think that's out of the question. In the UFC, honestly, I think Alex Pereira, he did say he wants to fight him for the BMF belt. I did talk about it earlier today, so go have a look in my news video. But yeah, those are my predictions. Honestly, I can't see this going any other way. So just to give you guys, again, a brief overview, I'm going Ruffy by second round TKO, becoming the first person to win score a TKO or a knockout victory against James Lantop. I'm going to go Karine Silva to be the first to submit Vivian Araujo in this flyweight bout. Middleweight bout, even though I think it's a great punt for you to go for Paul Craig to win this one by submission, particularly, I think Bo Nickel grinds out a very boring draw, unfortunately, a very boring decision, unfortunately, and gets the win, and they keep the rocket strapped to his back. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. I don't see this going any other way other than other than how it went in the first fight. It's a very similar result. I feel Charles Oliveira to win in a very similar fashion via second round TKO after a fast Michael Chandler start and Charles Oliveira weathering the storm. John Jones by TKO in round 3. Stipe is just, for me, too old. If you want to take a punt, take a punt. But yeah, Stipe, I think, is just not fought in long enough. And John Jones is still the GOAT and is just going to be able to do what he wants to him. So, sorry, Stipe. That's the way I see it going. Let me know what you guys think about UFC 309. Did you guys enjoy this live stream? It's a brief one. I don't think it needs to be too much longer than this. If you guys want to have a more in-depth chat, let me know. We can chat much more about it later in this week. Just hit it up in the comments. And don't miss the UFC 309 live stream happening this weekend, starting at 4 a.m. South African Standard Time. The last one was a blast. And you guys just stay tuned. We're going to be dropping some more information about that later in the week. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And as always, please like the video, comment, subscribe, and share it far and wide. And I will see you guys on Saturday for the next UFC live stream. Cheers, everybody.